when you are passionate about something, everybody around you feels it. Everybody around you understands that it's that vibe that you bring, and you can't fake it, right? There's.
Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast, the ultimate resource for ambitious, hardworking school owners that want to get their business and their life to the next level. My name is Dave Kovar. I'm a lifetime martial artist, business owner, speaker, and author. My goal is to empower listeners with the knowledge and the tools they need to break through barriers and really get their business and their life to the next level. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Welcome to the Satori Masters Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kovar, and joining me today is my good friend, Mike Guido. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. It's a great day to be here.
Yes, it is, man. I know we're taping this on a Monday, and of course, this is your motivational Monday. You put something out every week on that, right?
That's right. Yes, it's Motivational Monday. I've been doing this for probably about, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 years now, and I just feel like Monday is one of those days that used to be looked upon as, oh man, it's Mondays, and I just look at it from a different perspective and just try to bring that perspective to everybody who's listening.
Well, one of the things I think, I don't know, we've known each other probably a decade. Is it, maybe like known each other for a decade. Maybe we knew each other before then. Is that sound about right to you?
That sounds about right. Yeah, so somewhere around there. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, but one of the things about you, and by the way, I'll ask you to give a little bit of a background in a minute, but is that you are sincerely one of the most positive, upbeat people that I've ever met. You've got this this can-do attitude. And I'm curious, have you always had that? Or is that something that you've worked hard to acquire recently, or is just how you were wired?
I don't know. I think that might be just how I'm wired. I think when I was a kid, I felt like I was always kind of the underdog. And so if you're the underdog, the only place you can go is up. So I always thought I'm going to be, I'm just going to try to be in control of my mindset, and I figure if I'm going to be one way or the other, I'd rather be positive than negative. So I'm just going to go all in on that positivity train.
All right, outstanding. Well, hey man, just for the listeners that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about your, first off, where your school is, your upbringing, how long you've been doing martial arts. So let's start at the beginning. I think your stepfather is who you started training with originally. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I started training back in 1986. And my mom's it was more like a fatherly figure, I guess you could say. My mom's good friend. It was her husband, and he kind of took me in a little bit, and we met back in 1986, and he had a little small karate school in his garage, and I'll never forget, I came in the first day, and it was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, probably somewhere around this time, because it was near close to my birthday time. And I learned a rising block and a front kick, and after that I was hooked. So
isn't that funny? Yeah. It's like magic. Ooh, the rising block. How cool was that? Like, I remember that too. That's totally cool. And a front kick, it was like, I remember literally like took a YMCA course in my first class. Like, this is before I officially trained. I remember just learning a front kick and thinking that was the coolest thing ever. And so you eventually you were helping out somebody else in their school, and then you opened up your own school. How long has it been since you opened up your own school?
Yes, opened up my own school in 2016. Yeah, so I was teaching with my original instructor. He ended up taking it out of the garage and opened up. We kind of opened up the school together, and then I ended up opening up my own school in 2016, and it's been jamming ever since. It's been great. Right here in Clovis, California,
which is a suburb of Fresno.
Suburb of Fresno, yeah. So it's right next to Fresno, which is, if you're not familiar with California, we're just almost right dab in the middle. So
it's affectionately referred to. Well, I won't even say it. Never mind. It's considered the most desirable place to live in all of California. Way better than Carmel or Monterey or San Luis Obispo or Mendocino. Fresno's the place to be, right?
Sometimes we're referred to as the armpit of California.
I was going to say that, but I figured I'd let you do it. Right?
I'll do it. Yeah, absolutely.
I have massive memories. I think I shared with you kind of our Robert Halliburton, of course, who ran a school, a very successful school. He was a top fighter back in the day. We used to go to Fresno very frequently to compete in tournaments. Anyway.
And it's funny, I trained with Robert Halliburton for at least 5, 6, 7 years of my martial arts, of my beginning of my martial arts journey. So after the garage dojo, my instructor was actually a student of Robert Halliburton. So I trained at the Way of Japan school for, had to have been 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you've also competed for decades. As a matter of fact, you're a world champion.
When I was a kid, I competed a lot on the local circuit, and then as I got older, I started going to the national circuits and really enjoyed it. Competing was fun. I'm a very, very, very competitive guy. I like to be the best at whatever it is I do. So competition was great and that was fun. And I think I just competed in my actual last karate tournament this last November. It was time for me to put a stamp on it and call that
Actually,
good.
it was September. I was there. It was like
Oh,
the
it was,
first of
yeah, September.
September. Yes, I knew that's what you meant. I was there. Yeah, that was. You decided, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah, enough for the karate side, and now on the jujitsu side, I'm probably gonna do a couple other jujitsu tournaments just to get those, underneath my belt. But as far as karate goes, I've kind of done everything I need to do there, and it was a blast. It was fun and very enjoyable. And but you get to a certain age, I think that there comes a point in time where you have to say I've done what I need to have done.
I got you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I know you're all in jiu-jitsu. You recently got your brown belt under Carlos Machado. So you're
Yeah, so
working
we're
hard at
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's been great. So Master Machado, we're an affiliate school of Master Carlos Machado, and so our jujitsu program is under his system, and it's been absolutely amazing. So yeah, I just got my brown belt this year, earlier in the year. So that's been great, and it was one of those things when years back, it's funny. I watched you for a lot of years, and of course, you've always been an inspiration to me as far as branching out to different styles, and so one of those things was, gosh, I don't feel that area of my martial arts was as good as the rest, and I didn't like that. So I started training in jujitsu, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey man, let's switch gears and let's like you opened your school in 2016, and that's when we kind of formally started. I mean, I remember we talked at the Super Show prior to that, but you became a client, I think, right around the same time, and it's just been amazing to see you just kind of blow up over the last 7-8 years, and you've done incredibly well. So, give me some of the things that if you look at from a standpoint of, I know we've talked about this a lot, but martial arts first, teaching second, business third. That's kind of the way you and I are kind of wired.
Yeah.
How has your passion for martial arts helped you thrive successfully from a business standpoint? Is there been a connection there?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you are passionate about something, everybody around you feels it. Everybody around you understands that it's that vibe that you bring, and you can't fake it, right? There's you can either walk the walk, you can talk the talk, and so I've always been one to be able to. I feel like I have to walk the walk, and I have to be a martial artist first, because at the end of the day, that's kind of, as a martial arts school owner, that's our product, right? Is our
Mhm.
ability to have good quality sound martial arts, and then of course the teaching aspect has to be there as well. And um yeah, I think the passion for the martial arts has always been there, and I think our students, our parents feel that, and I think it's what's helped us, and it's also helped our team grow over the years.
So tell me, like, how many students do you have currently?
Yeah, we're right around 450.
That's amazing.
Yeah, give or take 449, 451. It's right in that range. Yeah, well, yeah, and we yeah, seven. It was our 7-year anniversary was this last August, and yeah, I think it's one of those things where you start your school and you've got 50 or 60 students, and then you're like, man, I just want to get to 100, and then you get to 100, and the next thing you know, wow, I'm at 150. And then you start hitting these different milestones. You're at 200, you're at 250, and I feel that sometimes it's a great evolution, but things have to kind of adjust and change over that time, and I think that's been one of the unique, fun challenges. I always look at challenges as fun, of going with the times, and going with the growth.
So what would you say? I've been in business for 14 years. I had 142 members. I can't seem to kind of grow the school. It must be the area that I'm in. What would you say to someone to kind of get them over the hump? What do you feel like they should do, to kind of get to the next level?
I think it's number one, go back and do a evaluation of yourself, right? Are you training? Are you trying to become a better teacher? Like, I think those two things have to be there. If you're not growing personally, I feel that your school's going to have a hard time growing as well. I've noticed that exponentially, personally, if I'm growing, then my instructors are going to grow and my school's going to grow. So I think growing your own personal martial arts and your own personal teaching skill, I think those two things have to go together. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to look at the systems you have built into your school. And are those systems designed in order to help you get more students through the door?
Well, I love the way you go about this. It kind of starts with us first, right? I couldn't agree with you more. Like if we don't have our A game on, if we're not really working towards it, it's because the mind, if you're not convinced, it's hard to be convincing. Meaning, it's hard for me to motivate all these people if I'm only kind of half committed to what I'm doing. So, when my vision is clear and I'm all in, and I show up like on Monday ready to go. By the way, that's not always easy to do, right? You have to work hard to cultivate that for at least for most people. And then that's half the battle, right, of going out, stepping on the floor. But interesting, when you talk about increasing your skill as an instructor, how few people really, when they're trying to grow their martial arts school, you really take a moment to say, well, how good are your classes? How can you make them better? And because that's really our product. This weekend, I did an instructor college in the Bay Area, and there was a gal there who she brought several of her team members. And by the way, just coincidentally, most of her team members have actually Satori Alliance certified instructors, right? And out of the corner of my eye, we're doing these instructor training drills, and I'm seeing everywhere I look, there's one of her instructors in one of these groups when we're doing practice teaching, and they're just killing it. I go, wow, look at where they're from that lady school. Oh, and I realized and I'm not saying it's because they're Satori Alliance certified, although I think that helped, but the fact of the matter is she is consciously making an effort to train her instructors, on not just how to do a better side kick, but here's how you interact with parents better. Here's how you line up a class. Here you keep classes exciting and innovative. And it just showed up. I mean, the difference between her group of instructors and some of the others was just night and day, right? Because they're making a conscious effort to improve. And I think that's one of the things that's just crucial is that, man, what we really have, if you're selling cars, then what I want to do is I want to get you in a nice car, and I want you to test drive that car. That's going to make you want to buy it. But what we do is we teach martial arts. What is our product? It's what happens in the classroom. And if it's only mediocre, good luck at growing your school.
Well, no, I tell you, so I couldn't agree with you more. And I remember at one point in time, before I was doing this, involved with Kovar Systems and doing the Satori Alliance training, I could teach a class. I think, I could teach a class, no problem. And on a great day when the sun is shining and you have the perfect amount of students and all the superstars are in the room, man, you're crushing it and the world is great. But there are days that that's not the case. There are days where you're going to be a little bit off personally. There's are going to be days where you're going to have a couple challenging students in your class. And it's those days that I feel that having a foundational base that you're constantly working on when it comes to your teaching skill is so crucial. It's kind of, it helps you get through those classes. Just like, let's say you're sparring and you sparred with somebody you've been working with for 10 years. Well, you're going to know when the block's going to come and when the counter is going to come. But what happens if you get with somebody that's maybe a little bit different or maybe a little bit more athletic? And you've got to have these fun, sound fundamentals. And I think that we remember that with our martial arts, but gosh, we got to really remember that with our teaching. And so for our team and what we do is we're constantly revisiting those fundamentals and role playing those fundamentals on a regular basis. So that way we can be so solid in our product. I think that right there is so crucial because look, we can have a bad class. We just can't have two in a row.
Yeah. And then what, I asked a question when I was running this instructor college. I go, how many guys have a favorite group class to teach? And, people's hands go up. And some people say, man, I love working with 4 and 5-year-olds, which, by the way, is a rare quality because that's not my best class to teach, right? And someone else says, oh, I love working with the black belt. Someone else says, I love working with the teens. And the point of this is by having a favorite class, by default, what you're saying is you have a least favorite class, right?
Yeah.
And it's human nature. It's natural. But the deal is that your teaching, your passion when your favorite class is natural. But when it's your least favorite class, that's when call upon your skills that you've developed as an instructor, your foundation. And something you also said about, hey, man, you got to have yourself first, your teaching skills, and then you have to have systems. I think what you said is really important. I used to tell people how to run a martial arts school. It's systems driven with personality, but I've actually over the years tweaked that. I think it's personality driven with systems. I think it starts with the person, right? And then you build the systems upon that, not just for teaching, but of course business in general. So let's switch gears for a minute. So you are heavily involved in your community. So you're beyond just running martial arts. So tell me some of the things that you do in community outside. Are you involved in any service groups? Do you ever do assemblies or self-defense clinics? I know the answer to all this, but go ahead and share with everybody. What do you do to make such an impact on the Clovis community?
I have I've been working on my skill set for a long time, and I have a very unique skill, I feel, to get young people to think in a way that can help them become more successful, just to help them, just to open up the doors in their mind. And so in my heart and my soul, I want to be able to share that with our youth. And so for years I've been, knocking on the doors of our local schools and really trying to create relationships with them and making sure that, with finding the right times to do so. And so what we've done is we've kind of broken it down from bully prevention, conflict avoidance. We just had Red Ribbon Week that I'm sure everybody's familiar with, and that was about saying no to drugs, which really I take a direction of making better choices. And so
I have to stop you. I have to stop you. I just make a comment. This is my brag. Is that back when I was doing the Red Ribbon assemblies, like personally, this is 25 years ago or something, right? Or 20 years ago when I was doing them. I actually did. I probably bragged about this before. I actually did 26 assemblies in 6 days, Monday through Friday, the following Monday. Yeah, that's like, it was insane. Yeah, but great fun.
That's insane. That right there is probably a world record that should be put in Guinness book, because that I did 6, and I was like, oh man,
Well, but I was doing 2 a day, actually 4 a day, because I would go basically. I didn't start doing the math on that. I honestly, it's the truth, but it was 4 a day basically, and then somehow I snuck in more on another day. I can't even understand how the math was, but I'm very clear that I did it. But I got to share a quick story with you. Of course, Nick Wilson, one of my senior students at the time, he's like 19 years old. That's put it, and he's helping me in my very last assembly. This is assembly 26, the following Monday. And I don't even remember, you say the same thing in the same way. And I kind of, did I already say this? I'm just kind of in this blur. I'm not at my best. And we used to do a board break. And in the board break, it was all about, committing to living a drug-free, healthy lifestyle. And you can't kind of sort of want to do it. You got to be fully committed to it, right? And so I hold the board for Mr. Wilson, Nick Wilson, and he breaks the board, and I pull it out. I hold it out like, wasn't that cool, kids? And one of them flies out of my hand, and I watch it in slow motion go chink, 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 and hit a kindergartner right in the forehead. By the way, this is a K through 8 assembly. I'm sure you've done those. Those are the hardest ones possible. And it's also 40 minutes, as in 40. And the kid starts crying and blood's coming out. Well, ironically, he was actually one of my students. So I knew his dad. His dad was really cool, but that was the longest assembly ever, because I had to, after we got, him rushed off to the nurse's office, everybody's looking at me like mad. Who's this person, taken out of kindergarten? And then I still had to do another 35 minutes of the assembly anyway, but I'm sorry to cut you off. So I had
it was good. Great story.
So
you've all had one of those.
Yeah. So you have, you have a way of interacting with youth that you've had great success with.
And it's been a work in progress. Like, I had a friend call me the other day, and he's like, hey man, I'm just opening up my school. How do I get into schools? And I'm like, look, man, I've been working on this for 13, 15 years. It's not going to happen overnight. And so I think I use that, Mr. Dave Kovar mindset is take care of the days, and the years take care of themselves. And so for me, it was just, being just consistent and being, methodical. And again, having a mindset of giving back to the schools. I've had schools say, hey, can we've got some funding we'd like to send your way. I go, listen, I can't accept that. I said, if you pay me, I will write you the check right back to your school, and you can put that towards something else for them. But I'm not going to accept that, because that's not what I do this for. Do we get students out of it? Sure. But really, it's for me, it's giving from my heart. And that's why I do these things. We have fundraisers that we do with the local PTCs that get students at our school and that type of thing. But yeah, so community outreach or
Well, I
outside
want to stop
lessons.
you because what you said is really important. It's like, by the way, I think if someone wanted to write you a check, I think that in my opinion, it's okay, but I get that you don't. I get why, but you're playing the long game. So see, the reason why a lot of people have a hard time, I tried going to school, but they wouldn't let me back in, or, is because people push too hard to get new members out of it. And the whole intention, what you're doing in your community is you're there to serve your community. And there's going to be some, oh, by the way, you interested in martial arts? Yeah, we can do that, but that's not your intention. And so what means is that people in your community trust that you're just not trying to sell them something. You're there because you want to serve. And so what happens is you may end up with less new members over the course of a few months with that strategy, but over decades, you're going to end up having a way more positive impact on your community and a lot more long-term members because you're playing the long game.
But I think the most important thing, and we talk about this in systems training, is, own your 5 mile radius. And, I'm constantly in front of people, and it's funny, like I'll go to a school and then people will ask, well, how do we start training? And so of course I'll tell them, sure, just have your parents go to our website. And the other day I was actually at a school and we had a young lady who started training with us at like 5 years old, stopped training at around 6, 7. And well, now she's like 8 or 9 years old, and she saw me at the school, and she was like, next thing you know, mom calls us, hey, we just saw Mr. Guido at the school, and my daughter's pumped up, ready to come back. I'm like, awesome. So yeah, I mean, we'll get students that get re-inspired and that type of thing, but really it's about helping the community. I'm also a member of our local Rotary Club, which is a service-based. A lot of
Sure.
times you see Rotary, and you're like, well, what is that? Basically, it's just what I just described, but a group of other individuals that come together and do things that support the schools. And there's always a youth aspect in there that I like to be a part of. So like, last week we were at a school and we gave out dictionaries to third graders, and we've been doing that for I don't know, 20 years with the Rotary Club. So I get involved with that, and I go in and I get to go in as the Rotary guy. They're like, wait a second, you're the karate guy. No, yeah, but I'm here with the Rotary Club today. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, just, I mean, I think just being consistent and being out there and just having a servant's mindset, which is, I think, so important. We should always have that. I think at the end of the day, being a martial artist first, we're going to get our feeling of success training. If you're a competitor, you'll get your feeling competing. But there's also got to be that service element where you're truly just giving yourself and your knowledge and the things that you can offer to where you live. And I think that's so crucial and so important.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you look like you live a pretty good lifestyle, like you and your wife take a lot of vacations, you've got a good team in place, so you're also being compensated in the bigger scheme of things. It's not like you're doing this for free, right? But you're giving first, and it's coming back your way because you charge a fair price. You follow good basic business principles that you do very well, but that's. I think that's a recipe for success. And I know I've shared this with you before. What's your key to be, continuing with success? Keep doing what you're currently doing. Keep that same kind of mindset,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree.
So I would be curious. I got to share one of my favorite, we're just assembly stories for you, okay? And I'm sure
Right.
you have a bunch too. I have a bunch, but there's this one time I'm actually called, this principal who I used to do assemblies for at one school goes to a different school, and he calls me up and says, "Hey, Dave, any chance you can come? I'm having a bullying problem at my school. Can you come do an assembly on the subject?" And of course, I'm happy to do it. And I show up, and there's this kid. He's a sixth grader. So I was doing the assembly for like 4th through 6th grade. And this guy's a 6th grader. His name is Mike. And I thought, oh, and he's a very intense student, and been trained with me for a couple of years. And so coincidentally, Mike, yeah, right. But I call Mike out of the audience to demonstrate the attention stance and talk about courtesy and respect. Anytime I have a student, I always try to highlight them in front of their peers, right? First thing I do, I slap them to attention stance. I talk about attention. This is the most important move in martial arts is self-discipline, because if you can stand straight and calm still, you can do other things. And then I have them do the bow, and I talk about martial arts begins and it ends with courtesy and respect. And I notice that everybody's kind of looking at each other and smiling and kind of whispering back and forth. And so I go about my assembly, and after we're done, the principal comes up and says, "Dave, I got to tell you, Mike, he is the biggest bully problem in the school." It's like, like open mouth insert. I consider to talk about what an amazingly focused kid this is, and how, and turns out he's the guy, right? He's the reason why we had the assembly in the first place. So I learned an interesting lesson. I always, when I go to the assembly, if I locate a kid that I know that's a student that I want to use, I'll walk up and ask the teacher, "Hey, how is little Mikey? Is he a good student?" Because I want to know that before I call him out. So any good, I have others, but any good like assembly stories for you?
It's so funny. It's so funny you bring that one up, because I think you've told me that story before, and because you told me that story, I've utilized that in every single one of my assemblies ever, because we do the same thing. Like we did so every time we have a board break, it's, let's say no to drugs, or I'm going to commit myself to anti-bullying, or I'm going to commit myself to making better choices. And of course they break through and they break the board. And so I've actually probably saved myself a bunch of situations, because you've got that student, they come into class and they're killing it and they're great, and then they go home and maybe that's their, maybe they're not quite doing what they need to be doing there. And so I do that with every single principal, and we talk about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that kid's good." I go, "Okay, good, I'm gonna use them."
Well, so you recently did an assembly, and I remember trying to talk you out of it. I'm going, "Man, you're insane. You did like 1,200 kids for an hour. What was it that you did? Like junior high or high school? What was the one you just did?"
So this was great. So there's a gentleman that actually played basketball for Fresno State, and then he went on to become a professional basketball player, and he struggled with drug addiction. And his name was Chris Herron. And if you go on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find tons of videos on him. And so they call me and they say, "Hey, Chris Herron's going to be at the high school. It's Clovis North High School." And they go, "And we need someone to come to the intermediate school." I said, "And then we want you, and we heard you're doing a great job. We want you to come." I said, "Sure, no problem." They said, how long are your assemblies?" I said, "No, it's somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes. And they go, "Oh, we need you for 90 minutes.
9-0.
9-0. Yes." And so I was like, "Oh." And so but me, I'm not going to pass up that opportunity. So I'm like,
Sure.
"Sure, sign me up. No problem. I'll figure it out." So of course I give you a call. And so we start chatting and start throwing ideas against the wall. And they come back to me the next day. They go, "Hey, you know what? Just so happens we don't need you for 90 minutes. It's only going to be 75 minutes. And I go, okay. So I'm in this gymnasium with the entire gym is filled.
And by the way, just a little background, I'm literally like freaking out for you, because the thought of having 1,200 7th and 8th graders for 90 minutes is like, to me, that's pretty intense, because it's really not 90 minutes. It's like 5 hours. That's what it feels like, right? So anyway, you get down to 75 minutes. So go ahead and tell me what happened.
Yeah, so we've got this, and so the kids are coming in and they're filling in, and I'm going, "Oh man." And by the way, mind you, normally I'll do in my karate gi, but I came suited out, looking very, very sharp, looking nice. And so so I was like, in my head, I'm going, wow. So I put together this presentation, and I start going through every single speaker that I've ever heard, right? From you to Master Chip Townsend to Ernie Reyes, and Thomas Clifford. And I'm just going through all these different scenarios in my head, and I go, I'm just going to take control of this room. And so, man, as kids were coming in, I was knuckle bumping people, high fiving people as they're coming in, creating a little bit of a relationship, a little buzz. See a couple of students in the area, and man, I tell you what, as I'm talking, I'm slowing my speech down a little bit. I'm just gathering them in. Next thing I know, I look around, and the teacher is giving me this look, going, I ran out of time.
Wow, incredible. So
75 minutes, and I had probably another 15 minutes left to go.
So one of the things that's really important that you touched on, that if you ever have a chance, and I think this goes for every audience, that every time you're going to do a presentation, right? But especially if you're going to go do an assembly for a bunch of kids, which can, if you don't know what you're doing, they will eat you alive, right? I mean, it's a real skill to be able to do an assembly. So I have so much respect for you to be able to do that for 75 minutes. But what I always talk about is two things. Number one is build rapport. So that's before you started. Before you get started, it's helpful if they decide they like you out of the gate versus who is this guy, and taking that moment, knuckle bumping and high five. And what you're doing is you're making them feel important and appreciated. So now you've got friends out of the gate. One time Jerry Seinfeld was asked, "Hey man, does it help when you do if you're going to do a comedy show? Does it help to be a Jerry Seinfeld?" And he says, "It helps for the first 5 minutes. After that, I'm on my own." Right? In other words, so they come in there and they've got their they're ready for. But if he doesn't deliver in the first 5 minutes, then he's just like anybody else. Well, it's the same kind of for us. Does it help that, man, that you're a high-level black belt and you're a world champion? Yeah, that helps. But that only helps maybe establish a little credibility. Once I get started, I'm on my own. So to build rapport, number two is some kind of focus anchor, something where you can draw them back in. So anyway, so you ran out of time.
Ran out of time. Yeah, I got to a point where I was, because I wanted to. It was kind of like a mixture, and it was and again, it was one of those things where the administration did not give me exact points of what they wanted me to talk about. It was like, yeah, you talk about some, anti-drug stuff, and then talk about maybe some good mindsets, but yeah, just do what you do. But mind you, I've never been to this school, but the principal there was actually a principal at an elementary school that I went to years ago. And so there was kind of a relationship there. So yeah, I think it went great, but I think, hey, you talked about it just now, making that relationship, well, basic 3x3s of instructing, well, use the 3x3s as they were coming in and again, panning the room, making sure you're not just staying in one area. I just kind of used all my teaching tips as I'm going around and doing this assembly. And yeah, it worked out great. And the next thing you know, I'm getting emails and calls from certain parents that actually work in the district. And they're like, "Hey, we heard about your presentation." I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, we heard you knocked it out the park." I'm like, "Well, there you go. Awesome."
All right.
And so I felt good about it. It was great.
Well, I want to switch gears and I want to talk about, by the way, you guys, if you've never met or talked to Mike Guido before, this is exactly how he is all the time. He's super positive, high energy, motivated guy. What do you do to keep this up? How do you keep your momentum and your enthusiasm going?
Well, okay. So number one is, again, I got to take care of myself. So make sure my nutrition's on point, my exercise, my fitness, my training, just making sure personally, I'm dialed in, good to go. That's number one. For me personally, then, I make sure in my personal life, I'm making sure that everything is dialed in personally. So I make sure that I'm, balancing my time with my family and making sure that I am just, always trying to be the best version of myself. And so that way I'm centered. The second thing that I think about is being really, really goal oriented. So setting personal goals for myself and always trying to accomplish something all the time. I think that's so important. Like last week was a rough week for me. We had our holiday sale. We're getting ready to actually move into a new location, and we were having trouble getting the keys for our new location. And I didn't go into that, but then I started getting like this little itchy cough in my throat. So last week was a rough week, and so we finally got through our holiday sale. Didn't get a day off yesterday. Usually Sundays are my recovery day, but we had to get in the dojo and get things cleaned up. And so I just sat down last night and I said, last week is over. This week is here. Let's attack it. Man, woke up this morning and taught a jujitsu class and came in and I'm ready to go. And you called me. You're like, "Hey, you want to be on a podcast?" I'm like, "Let's do it," And so what I'm doing is just constantly keeping myself centered. And then I'm always setting goals for myself to try to accomplish something. It gives me purpose. It gives me a vision. It gives me a way to constantly be, grinding and working towards something. And for me, that's the fun part. The fun part for me is every day trying to be better than I was yesterday. And that's my main goal. Like, let me try to be better than I was yesterday. Let me try to be a better version of the person I was a year ago, and just constantly try to become better. And I think people feed off that. I think people like that. They like to be around that type of vibe, and they feel it, they understand it, they know it's real and genuine. And so I think that for me, that's what kind of keeps me centered. And then also too, the last one, making sure I just, take off every once in a while, take a couple weekends here and there, just and sometimes I feel like, oh man, I can't go away from the dojo. But when I come back, the team is energized because I'm energized. I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job of it. And one of the things that you just touched on is the importance of kind of being on purpose. And you said last week was a challenging week. Everybody has those, myself included, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to put your game face on and grind through, knowing. But over time, you'll learn that this is temporary. Stuff passes. It's kind of like what is Teddy Roosevelt? I think he's the one attributed to this. Is that sometimes you feel like you're at the end of the rope, but if you ever get to the end of the rope, what do? Tie a big knot in it and hang on, right? It's like sometimes that's what, okay, man, it's kind of a rough week. Take a breath. Don't do anything that's going to sabotage my progress, right? Just kind of get through it. It's going to get better. And well, hey, man, I so appreciate you being on the show today. I appreciate and respect what you're doing. And any closing thoughts for our audience?
I just got to give a shout out to you, sir. You definitely have been an inspiration to me over the years and really helped me out. And your leading from the front inspires me to do something similar in my organization. And so I think that it's so important to look for mentors in your life that are positive, that you can learn from, right? It's, wisdom is experience remembered. And for you, sir, you have a lot of experience. And so I'm just going to feed off that. And then I'm going to reciprocate it and pass it down to the people that are coming up in the next generation, and just keep this thing moving and keep it growing. And if we grow together, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Outstanding, man. I thank you for the compliment. I won't take that as what you were saying as I'm getting old. I will not tell you. I will not take that way. No, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being on the show, and I look forward to talking again soon. Take care.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in today to our podcast. I hope you found it valuable and inspirational. To stay connected, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star review. And we really sincerely would appreciate some feedback. Your feedback helps us to create high-quality content that will help others in the future. If you'd like to follow me, you can go to Dave Kovar on Facebook or Haunchy Dave Kovar on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on next episode.